Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 18th, 2025 at approximately 9:02 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's journey. Well, God's got to kill that. I've made it my life's purpose to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies that I gauge virtually every decision I make by. Now, with this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into it, we have Storm in the background. He handles all the tech, to make sure this whole shindig can continue. Biggest catch to it is I'm a problem child where technology is concerned. Do I have? Oh, that's going to cause a problem. Oh, well. Anyway, he is also the one that takes it directly to make sure we don't end up with problem children in the house. Okay, with this in mind, those coming in that are intending on being problem children, don't ask me how he does it, but Storm will know if you're a problem child in hiding. As long as you don't break protocol, you're welcome to stay put. Otherwise, you get popped out, you get to listen, but that's where it ends. Now, with that in mind, we have Cowie, you're in with the gold. How you doing? Now, today, and I didn't get things ready because, quite frankly, I ran into an interesting problem. I did not take into consideration the time of day. So, we are looking at the YLDRBAC Chronicles, from concept to creation. Hence this. Okay, now, let us take a look here. LA Moon is in the house, and LA is she is another primary moderator that helps keep the conversation going when it starts to stall. She also keeps a very close eye out on what my personal health is doing. And I'm probably going to have to sit down and talk to her about another issue, although you will be happy to know, LA, that yes, I did just finish supper just before we came on. About 5 minutes before, if I remember correctly. Now, with that in mind, when we take a look at the YLDRBAC Chronicles, every one of you has a story to tell. Now there's a really neat concept, and before I get into all the rhetoric around it, understand the original story. The original story that was written when I was 15. Is actually in the back of this book. As a matter of fact, I keep it in the back of every one of them. I'm just seeing if I can find it. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. Don't panic on that. There we are. Right at the back of the book, there's a neat little epic poem that is simply listed as YLDRBAC, the story. Now, where this started was back in grade 10. I'd been playing Dungeons and Dragons for, by that time, 2 years. Okay. Now, I've got a lot behind me, but we were tasked with a very simple question. Write a story outline. Okay. Write a story outline. That was the English task at hand. That was our project. Well, I took a look, even at 15 years old, I took a look at the world. And the conflicted outlooks. You've got creationism. And I found in this series, I found a way to literally combine creationism, evolution, science, magic, human evolution, alien races, off-world races, okay, and of course technology, plus the primitive way of life. All of these things I managed to drop under one roof at 15 years old. Now, I was told by a number of people that nothing I ever did would ever amount to anything. Okay, so I took this storyline. Now, because I've been playing D&D for 2 years. Eternity Eternal, how you doing? You are in with the silver. Now, I'd already been playing D&D and a game called Aftermath, which really boils down to post-apocalyptic survival. Okay, and because I had so much fun with the game and with the people I was in, no, let's scratch that. Those people came way down the road. Okay, but I took those concepts and put them to paper in the form of a poem. And like I said, the original one with a couple of minor little tweaks, and I don't have the original now. Okay, a couple of minor little tweaks, as in I had, a 15-digit number, I chalked it down to eons. Okay, but put the poem together, turned the story outline together, and that's all I thought it was. Turned it in, and the teacher comes back to me. Now, you got to remember, the way school was when I was growing up, all students sat in alphabetical order according to their last name. Now, this meant that I was always the first or second person in the line. So when the teacher come out, okay, and, in this case, I'm actually quite legally permitted to say this. My English teacher, I believe she's probably passed now. Lauren Fowler, how you doing? You are in with the bronze. Glad you could join us. Now, Mrs. Van Olderbeck was my grade 10 teacher. I turned this story outline into her. She goes through it and she comes to hand out all the outlines. Everybody's homework back to them. Now, people my age will remember this sort of thing. I'm sure of it. Okay, so she starts handing them out and she bypassed me and carried on with the rest of the class until she got down to the last report. That was mine. She comes back to me with the paper in hand and she goes, "Do you have any idea what you wrote?" I says, "Yeah, I wrote a story outline." I says, "Granted, it's going to take several volumes to get it written, but it's a story outline." And she goes, "No, well, yes." But she said, "What you did was you wrote an epic poem." I said, "What, pray tell, is an epic poem?" She goes, "It's something that hasn't been taught since the mid-1800s. She goes, "You're going to make your money writing." Now, the long and short of it is, I didn't do anything with it. Okay, I had the storyline, and that's where it was. Okay, but when did this one come out? I just got to double check and see the date it was published, that I published it. There we are. Okay, about 2016, I started writing the Birth of the Wolf Pack. In 2019, it went to print. Now, this book, okay, and all books I've written can be attained through the Buy Me a Coffee link at the top of the chat room. This book is available through the Buy Me a Coffee link. Okay, and with that in mind, it's also available now in PDF form. What I did was I took this story, and because I was playing in role-playing games, I figured, where do you start? Because I'll tell you, as an author, and I am now quite happy to say, I can qualify myself as a professional author, thanks to you guys, because I'm actually selling the books now. Okay, which means I'm earning some income. Not enough yet. Got to work on that. Okay, but I started the story off in a bar, and if you've ever gamed, you'll understand why that is important. It was a real easy place to start. Started off with simply Here's the bar. Now, let me ask you guys, when you go to read a story, how long, and I'm hoping I get some responses in the chat room on this one, how long does it take? Like, how many chapters do you give a book to get your attention? Okay, before you finally say, no, I'm just not able to read it, and you put it aside. Okay, I do have an answer from that standpoint, but I'm hoping for a little input. So I started in the bar, and I went, here's the primary character. Now, understand something. If you take a look at the character there, okay, take the gun out of the equation, and we take a look at what he's wearing. If you watch the old WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, became WWF or something to that effect. No, it's WWW. Anyway, Lauren goes, the first one to me. You're like I am, Lauren, in that respect. So I started the book off in a bar, laid out a little bit of the layout of the bar, the atmosphere, and one chap, Jeremiah Wolstrand. Okay, now this little munchkin here, this is Jeremiah. Now, where it came to the gaming platform, he is the character I built in D&D, or built for my Aftermath game. Okay, it starts off with Jeremiah in the bar. In the first chapter, there is a hint of a fight. Now, understand, this is science fiction, science fantasy, post-apocalyptic. Okay, now, this is book 10, book 11 and 12 come after the fall of man. Okay, book 9 is actually the fall of man. But in here, bearing in mind, it's a rough and tumble little detail. In the first chapter, there is a hint at a fight. Okay, it takes place in the background, nothing serious. Okay, at least that isn't the way it starts. By the end of book 2, there has been a very detailed, very bloody battle. Okay, 10-1 odds. 10-1 against him. Now, Jeremiah happens to be the pacifist in the party. Okay, 10-1 odds. 7 dead, 2 badly wounded, and 1 gets away safe. Okay, that's in the second chapter. Okay. Here we are. LA goes, I like a book to start with some action, i.e. a hunter after prey or some other action. Then I like explanation to follow, explaining the action. I write this way as well. Now, and that's excellent there, LA. So I went in, and the second chapter, everything goes to heck in a handbasket. I just started writing. Okay. Now, every one of the main characters, okay, is built literally by another gamer, and they are all of the main characters are a combination of literally the people that are written. Here we are. There we are. I ended up taking a look at them. Okay. And we got it off the ground, and I just started writing. Now, this book is 31 chapters long. Now, I knew when I started writing this, it was going to take at least a sequel and probably a prequel. So I started writing. Well, in the beginning of it, I wrote the story, the first 250 pages. I turned it over to a friend of mine to read the transcript. And again, I'm not going to tell you how it ends, any of that, but I will tell you this. He got the transcript before I fleshed it out. And he goes, he literally looks at me when he reads. He says, I'll take it home, I'll read a couple of chapters in the morning and carry on from there. He phones me up at noon the following day and goes, I finished the book. But I don't think you gave it all to me. Okay. So I asked him, and this is where I'm going to leave you in the dark. Okay, I asked him. I says, was it 256 pages? He goes, yeah. I says, was the last word on the last page this? He goes, well, yeah. I says, you got the whole book. Okay. He goes, but what happened? I said, that's where the other books come in. Now, many people say, you write what you know. Well, every one of the primary characters, and for that matter, 90% of the secondary characters and backup and support are in either a first name or an occupation are taken on for the most part. Okay. And where they were gamers, the characters in here, for instance, Jeremiah Wolfstrand, okay, is a combination of Jeremiah, the character I built, and myself. Now, the neat part about it was when I built Jeremiah in the first place, I told the game master, I says, look, he wants I want the best of the best. I didn't ask for the world to go to heck in a handbasket, but I'm going to have the best of the best. Now, this has since carried over into my modern world. Okay, reality is what you make it. When I started writing this, okay, I tracked down I was looking for an artist, found one in England. Now, here's something else. I should have had the other book over here. And for pity's sakes, guys, if you've got a question, absolutely ask. Now, I turned to some pretty serious companies to try and actually get my book published. And I had a lot of them go, oh, give us X number of dollars, we will get you sales. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. Not a single inquiry. Okay. So, with that in mind, I do not do that anymore. But here's where I get sideways. Okay. Because this neat little book, that's book 1. Well, technically, literally, it's book 10, but it's the first one in print. This is The Birth of the Wolf Pack. If you turn it around, okay, now bear in mind, there are 12 books in this series. Okay, if you turn the book around, you'll see we have individual characters. We've got Jeremiah. We've got Wilhelm Schunter. And we have Tanya Jan Scott. These are primary members. Now, when book 2 came out, okay, The End of an Epoch came out, you'll notice two more characters. We've got Dirk Waterstone, and we have Blade. Okay, now this Blade here, yes, he's black, but if you've ever watched the movie Blade, starring Wesley Snipes, Blade was designed before the movie came out. But here's the neat thing, if you get this in hard copy, well, in paperback, you take a look at the back, and then we take a look at these. Okay, that's wrong. You take a look at those, and they line up. All 12 books line up to make a complete picture. Okay. So I started putting it together, but every character that is in it, almost every character that's there, is based on an individual that I met. Okay, that I ran into in personal life, or it's based on events that I've personally gone through. Okay, this is why I had one girlfriend read the manuscript, like read the overall story, and she goes, Keith, this doesn't look like a storyline. This looks like an autobiography. Okay, and that'll make sense if you get into, I was going to say if. When you get into reading it, it will make sense why she stated it that way. But this is the culmination of a lifetime of work. My last 2 years has been a nightmare, okay, for personal reasons, so everything's stalled. But I've recently started pushing to finish off book 3 and book 12, Return to Paradise. Now, here's the kicker to it. I know Return to Paradise will not be of the same caliber I'd like it. I know this for a fact, but I've got to get it moving again. Now, one of the other things that I found with this is I started looking at it going, okay, you start with society falling apart. The wolf pack is a group of misfits. Oh, okay. Give you an idea. They come from every walk of life. I'm not sure if I should tell you, but I'm going to anyway. Jeremiah Wolfstrand, he is a linguist. Okay. He is also a pacifist. He'll talk his way out of pretty much anything. But he's ex-military. Then you have, we go back here, we have Wilhelm Schunter. Okay. He is, now bear in mind, world's already gone to heck in a handbasket. Now get this. The world collapsed because of a combination of things. Human greed, natural disaster, and invasion. Okay, I put all three under the same roof. Okay, the one thing I didn't do is I didn't turn around and go, let's take a whole pile of religious zealots. Okay, I left that out of the equation because I figured that was going to be a problem. I figured I was already picking on them in a sense by combining creationism and evolution. Figure I already had enough people annoyed. And in all fairness, it was one of the last things I thought about. Now, Storm is gone. I'll give a book 3 chapters to establish a rhythm. In my writing, I'll start with a small bit of action, then explain the reason behind it with connection to the environment in which it's occurring. And this is precisely what happened with the birth of the wolf pack. Started off in a bar and expanded from there. Now, this group of people get together through one method or another, some of them dating back years. Okay, but like I said, you've got ex-military, you've got a professional assassin, you've got a hillbilly, okay, and then we have these two people, and these two are the closest of friends, okay. We have Dirk Waterstone, a millionaire hacker, right here, okay, and we have Blade. Now, Blade is a street kid. These two become, these two have a relationship that dates back ages. Okay. Now, oh yes. I forgot I did this. I gotta go get the rest. But let's peel this off, shall we? I'll put that back up in just a moment. But this is the back of book 3. Now, because it's got tape there, I'm not going to be able to do the rest of it. But it matches up. And on it, we have, who do we got here? We have Mickey. Okay, Mickey is military, but the real question with Mickey is, did he actually know there was a war going on? And then you have Oswald. Okay, now Ozzy happens to be the grandfather. Okay, he's a grandfather figure. And he's just one of these people. Well, let me put it this way. Old man, 66 years old, carries a custom-made 460 Magnum carbine length barrel. Okay, any of you know what about guns, I'll give you an idea how big this was. And then we've got this woman up here. Well, she is another primary player. There's a couple others coming out. Okay, but these people are people that play a big role. Now, let's hang this back up. Now, I turned around and went, okay. People told me I'd never get anywhere with it. I'd never make any headway. Whatever you do, don't write because you can't make money. I just want to bring your attention to a chap that some of you may recognize, Stephen King, George Lucas. These are people, now, do not get me wrong, I am not of their caliber in my eyes. But these are people that decided writing books was a good idea. Okay. So I was told, number one, you can't make any money at it. Well, it took me, well, literally, I printed Birth of the Wolf Pack in 2019. Okay. In 2019, I printed it. Now, that was great. Okay. Here we are in 2025. I'm finally making some money. Not great money. Okay. But ideally, what I'm going to do is finish building a very big project. Now I've got the ball rolling. Now I just have to get a little bit more viable on it. But here's where it gets a little twisted. This group of people gets together, and their whole purpose is take the problem children out of the equation and start rebuilding society. Start changing the things that were completely dropped prior to this. Now, the world collapsed. So here we got people from all kinds of different walks of life. Okay. Oh yes, and let us not forget the other little detail. In amongst the ancient races and the aliens, we have this other little thing, because we're talking something built in the imagination. Okay. Which means we have mutants. We have people that come from different game genres. Okay, and yes, there are those people that are literally, they are, well, from your standpoint, they really fit in comic books nicely. Okay, not the least of which is a gentleman by the handle the Mercury Mall. Now, this is a guy that can outrun a horse. Okay, and you guessed it, he carries them all. All of these people have personal interactions. Okay, and it ranges the gamut. But I wrote the 4 books in the 12 books in 4 ages. Each one a standalone trilogy. Each book is being written to stand on its own, but linked together at the same time. Okay, now, one of the hardest parts in all of this is staying focused. And I'll tell you, when your life goes into a tailspin, which mine really did, okay, I ended up stalling on the writing of a lot of different things. But what I am now doing, while I'm in the middle of writing this, in Positive Perspectives, the free magazine available at the top of the link here, okay, I am covering bits and pieces from the stories, and you get to see who these people are. But there is not a time when, if they get into a battle, it is, okay, maybe I should stop that for half a second. There's one aspect of writing that I do not touch. I barely even hint at it. Okay, I would have to say it probably, these books, the YLDRBAC Chronicles probably fit into the category of 13 years and older. There is the closest thing to any sort of adult interaction. Okay, and don't ask me what chapter. Okay, I even wrote it, I can't tell you what chapter. But there's a section where the wolf pack has cleared, they've rescued a bunch of people. Okay, and then Jeremiah gets up in the morning. All these people are hiding, they're all hunkered together. Jeremiah gets up and he's doing a head count. He goes, 1, 2, 4, 7, 8. He counts them off and he goes, I'm missing 2. Where are they? So he scans the area, and all he sees, and this is the closest you ever get to adult interaction. He's looking for these 2 people, never identifies who they are. Okay, and all you see is, they over in the bush. He sees this bush over on the other side of the clearing, and the branches are swaying back and forth, just kind of rhythmically. And he goes, Jeremiah looks at it and goes, oh, there's the other two, and carries on with the day. That's the extent of it. Now, when we are talking about the fight scenes, they are choreographed and literally they are bloody. Okay, this is why I say this is not something to read to your children from a bedtime story standpoint, unless you happen to be one of the Christians and one of the what is it, Hans Christian Andersen, or that kind of storyline. Oh, the Grimm brothers was the other one. Okay, but they are extremely volatile, but always taking care of the underdog. Okay, and this is where it came to, and the whole thing. As I got writing it, I'm going like, okay, I live the metaphysical world. So what did I do? Now, books 10, 11, and 12, the trilogy that I've just about got completely out right now. This is something that happens, hopefully never, but it's laid out as it happened. The world came to an end. Okay. But when you go back to chapter 1, to book 1, where it all began, it is in this book that I start covering things like, what is a soulmate? What is a twin flame? What is a soul family? These sorts of questions, how do you handle hands-on healing? All of these, like a lot of these paranormal abilities are covered in the YLDRBAC Chronicles. Now, I included them there not because of the fact that I figured I got to get everything. It's just, it is all interconnected. Now, one of the neat parts about it from my standpoint, I'm looking at this. We've got 3 people in the, no, we got to have more than that, don't we? Let's go refresh. I put this story together to tell the story from the beginning of man all the way through the fall of mankind and back to the rise. Okay. And what I found out was everything was interconnected. So yeah, I've got a lot of different storylines going on at the same time. And now what I'm looking at doing is I've tied in the storylines to add them into positive perspectives. Okay. I was told by somebody a little while ago, I really should do this on the, on live video and talk about some of the books I've been writing. Okay. Now, here's where it gets to be a little different. Okay. I am so tired of hearing people go, oh, I sent my manuscript off and I got told my book wasn't good enough. Or I got told it was, it isn't long enough. Too many people do this. So here's what I'm doing. Now, Inner Voice Enterprises is already listed as a publishing company. Okay. And I write myself in 5 different genres. Okay. And here's the neat little kicker to it. I've got myself a phenomenal team. Okay. As you already know, Storm handles tech for me. Ellie handles, she handles a lot of things, not the least of which is making me healthy. And I'll tell you, when you're fighting depression, that can be a royal pain. And then I've got my fiance, executive assistant, and primary editor. And I'll tell you, she is a picky editor. And that's Kira. Okay. I mean, she is picky enough that, I kid you not, she'll spot an extra space at the end of a paragraph and correct it. This is just the kind of people that I have with me. Okay. And there is no way I can thank them enough. Well, actually, there is. Okay. Which is why I've developed a few things. But with the YLDRBAC Chronicles, I've tied it together now where I'm actually able to link part of it, like the storyline itself is going to continue. Now I'm pushing to tie it off. Okay. With that in mind, I also have the idea of bringing together all of the metaphysical tools. Now, when you look at the story, at the book that you guys have already seen, Races of the Worlds, that's an encyclopedia. It gives you data, it gives you stats, that's it. But many of those races are covered in the YLDRBAC Chronicles. And this is exactly why I keep telling people I question my own sanity on occasion. However, I never did argue the point as to whether or not Santa Claus was around. I've got one in my contracts. But, the biggest thing we have to look at here is when I started telling this story, okay, it was literally, it wrote itself. I was in chapter 28 before I finally looked and went, I got to tie this thing off. Okay, so I tied it off. Took me a few chapters. And then I carried it straight back on with the end of an epic. Same idea. I let it write itself. Now, that said, these are already in print. Okay, and now it's just a question of making things happen in the right order. One of the other things that I did find out as I started doing this, now all kinds of different ideas came into mind as far as marketing, as far as merchandising, the whole 9 yards. Okay, and I've been building a list of things I'm going to be working on and revealing. And absolutely, guys, if you've got an idea, I'm absolutely more than willing to listen. Okay, I'm looking for any idea I can, because I'll tell you, the so-called professionals have absolutely shafted me. They do it to a lot of companies and to a lot of people. But here's the thing I'm going to drop on your guys' lap. I am putting an anthology together, a poetic anthology and one of short stories. Now, with that in mind, if you have, this is a direct one for you. If you have a story that you would like to write, that you feel you can write, or a book you're trying to get published, here's the thing. Okay, I am already listed as a publishing company. So the YLDRBAC Chronicles have turned into an interesting setup where I will be printing other people's books. But here's the kicker. I require the manuscript, a letter from you stating this is your original work, and a letter giving me permission to sell your work in whole or in part, where you're still getting a chunk of the lion's share of the profit. Okay, from the books I sell. The only thing I'll guarantee where it comes to visibility is I will make sure it gets onto my site. I will certainly talk about it when I get the opportunity. Okay, but you've got full control to do with what you will with the rest of it. Okay, that's just the way that goes. That's the way I operate. I'm not about to tell you if you've got a story that you feel is good. I'm not about to sit here and tell you it's not good enough. Okay, I'm not going to tell you your artwork is not good enough. I will tell you that it may not make as much money as you'd like. I'm telling you right now, it certainly took a long time for me to get anywhere. But with the advent of moving to the PDF, the book is available the moment you order it. The moment you pay for it, it gets downloaded to you. You can read it that way. Now, I have all of the books that I talk about, and especially with the YLDRBAC Chronicles, I have these books in my office, which means my commitment, and really it's more a commitment to me than it is to you. Okay, within 3 business days of getting an order for a physical book, I get it into the post office, heading wherever it's going. Okay, some of you have already received some of the books. Okay, now, do understand with the YLDRBAC Chronicles, that's a life's work. The rest of these are added bonuses and what have you. But I am pushing forward with it. Now, one of the biggest challenges people have is, but what if I'm not good enough? Well, let me tell you, I knew a painter. He took an off-white canvas, okay, just a standard painting canvas. I think it was about 2 by 3 feet. Covered it, he painted it off-white. That was it, just off-white. Put baseboard edging around it as a frame, called it whiteout, and sold it for $1 million. Now, I don't know about you, but to me that gets pretty lame. But it does show you can sell pretty much anything. It's not a question of whether you can. It's a question of whether you market. Okay. Now, the nice part about it is I will do what I can, but I'm still learning as I go. Okay. The YLDRBAC Chronicles was a way for me to go, oh, I enjoyed my time with the gamers, not just around the gaming table, but with the people themselves. Okay. To the point that I wrote this story. Now, the sad part about it is that the people that I put so much weight behind, so much emphasis on, I enjoyed my time with these. None of them, well, no, only one of them talks to me at all anymore. Not because of the book, but because I am different. It's that simple. Okay. And I'm just a little too different for most. But what I'm looking at is I would love to see somebody else, your paperwork, your poem, your story, your novel put in print. Now, I am in the process of working on pricing and what have you, so I'm not going to give you a formula or anything like that. But here's the way this goes. Book 10, 11, and 12 are the one trilogy. When you come out the back end of Return to Paradise, there are a couple of options. Okay, number one, it tells you directly in Return to Paradise to go back to the original scrolls and read the beginning of the histories of the beginning of the world, which, by the way, covers the first 8 books. Now, you can go that route, go back and read right from day one, all the way back up to the birth of the Wolfpack. This is a 12-volume series. But here's a neat little kicker that popped up the other day. Well, about a year ago. There is a secondary route at the end of Return to Paradise. Okay, there is an event that takes place that you can either follow Jeremiah onto his next adventure, or you could go back and find out where he came from. Okay, these are things that are taking place. Okay, and this is where it's arrived at now. Now, I do have a number of things I'm working on, not the least of which is posters, t-shirts, coffee cups. I'm not about to go into a lot of things, I don't think. Merchandising is something I'm looking into, but it will be a work in progress. Okay, and as they become available, I will pop them up there. Okay, now, yes, there's all this neat little thing. Well, if you put ideas out there, somebody's going to take them. And then you're not going to get the money for them. I am not the only person on the planet. Okay, but I am in the middle of trying to correct a few things. Okay, where the YLDRBAC Chronicles will eventually get to, and this is one of the things I got to go down to my printer for, is to get the overall picture of the whole back cover picture of the whole series of 12. It's already been designed. My artist in England is already dealing with it. Okay, so these are just some of the things that are taking place. Now, if you've got an idea, if I run into people and I come up with a personality that works, there's one character, and I'm not, there's one character that is literally called by her legal name on, like, in Return to Paradise. I actually went to an MMA person that I know, okay, and got her legally a legal document stating that I can actually use her name in the story. Okay, there is also one character, only one that I'm aware of, that I have no idea where he came from. He has no foundation of, like, I haven't based him on anybody. He just kind of showed up that way. Okay, right out of left field one day. I'm still trying to figure out how I brought him in the first place. But what I'm now doing is seeing what can we do to make this more visible, more appealing, because I'll tell you, the best book in the world is absolutely useless if nobody knows where it is. And this is why I say, if you go to the Buy Me a Coffee link at the top of the stream, buymeacoffee.com/InnerVoiceJ. Okay, you go there, you can get all of the books in PDF, all the ones that are written, the rest I'm still working on. Okay, that is where things are coming together. And I am going to continue pushing it. I finally got my footing on the ground on that one. Now I just have to figure out where to go with it. And of course, I've got the YLDRBAC Chronicles coming out of the back end of that after Return to Paradise. There is another series coming out that I've already started, Beyond the Portal. And it ties straight to the end of the YLDRBAC Chronicles. Okay, this is where an imagination can get you into trouble. Remember I mentioned get things tied off? You know, you might get caught up in the list. Well, I've done the same thing. I've got, I think, what is it now? 29, 30, no, 20. I think I've got 42 books-ish that I'm concurrently writing right now. But I pared it back to get these ones finished. Okay. And now it's a question of getting visibility. And, you know, I'm hoping that as word gets out, that as people start to read these books, they'll enjoy reading them. You know, you'll enjoy reading them as much as I've enjoyed writing them. There's a lot of work involved. And the nice part with this particular editor is there's no discussion of what I was trying to say, okay, or of how I should have said it. She simply goes, okay, this is the image I'm getting. What are you trying to give? Now, here's the neat little part where it comes to the writing. I do the writing, she does the transcribing, and then the editing. But at the same time, this is a woman that is 100% blind. And yet, she can, and because of the way I write, according to her, she can see what's going on. And my idea with the writing is to put you in the middle of the fight. Okay, so that when a sword is drawn, you're going for cover, or you're feeling the blood come across your forehead, you know, as it comes off the end of somebody's blade. Okay, and yes, most of these characters have, shall we say, a less than serious outlook on life. You know, Dirk, for instance, in one scene, he's put in an interrogation room. And the guy comes in, looks at Dirk, and goes, so what do you suggest we do with you? And Dirk, and I'm paraphrasing, Dirk sits there and goes, well, I suggest you let me and my friends go, and we'll just call it a day. Right. The guy goes, you're in no position to threaten me. Dirk looks at him and goes, you thought that was a threat? No. If it were a threat, I'd be doing something like, let me go now, or me and my friends are going to level this place with not a man standing. Okay, that would be a call to threat. And it just gets carried away. Okay, there's a lot of different characters, a lot of different supporting characters, most of which I've pieced together because of other gamers, other game characters that I've seen. Okay, and when I'm talking about gaming characters, I mean people that somebody else ran in a D&D, a role-playing game environment. Okay, I do not look at the characters that's been built on TV and go, oh, let's make a person like that. Okay, yes, I played D&D Aftermath, Star Frontiers. Okay, I played Champions, DC superheroes. Okay, these are all different games that I played. So I take characters and possibilities from these type of people, but I always link them to one other friend, to somebody I know. Rhonda, for instance, was an absolutely flighty woman. Okay, young lass, but talk about flighty. No offense to her. Okay, but the Rhonda in the YLDRBAC Chronicles is, well, number one, you got to remember, Blade is a demolitions expert. Rhonda taught him. Now, Rhonda has this little idea of where she is, she'll work on explosives. A lot of people leave her alone. Okay, very bubbly personality, but unfortunately, she's got a bit of an explosive temper. So we end up with the Chronicles now are taking on their own life again, which means once I get the next one out, I'm starting through it. It's going to be a couple of months because I've got to read back through it to see where it was. Okay, but as it comes out, I'm already halfway through writing where it all began. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm aiming at getting the 12 books out as efficiently as possible. Because I'm telling you, I'm tired of sitting around with it. Okay, it's been put on hold for way too long. Now, with that in mind, and we are right down to the back end here. Let me see here. Did I actually write it down? I don't think so. I think I forgot to write it down. I did. So let's see if I actually sent it. Because what I'm actually looking for is what we actually had listed. Now, where are we? Okay. Okay. I don't have it listed right here, so I will have to get this posted. I will be posting it, though. We will be back again tomorrow. I really want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. I will be back again tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific. But until then, do take care of yourselves and each other.